Jason from Sassafras Software. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining the webinar today. This is the fifth of our KeyServer Fundamentals webinars. In this webinar, we're going to talk about KeyServer 7.5, the new release that came out a week or so ago, and all of the new features. Particularly, though, we want to focus on the new lab map drawing tools and other features around lab maps. So we'll start out with a quick overview of what all the new features are in KeyServer 7.5, and then we will jump into Key Reporter and walk through those features that are associated with lab maps and demonstrate building a new map with the drawing tools. For anyone who has used Key Reporter's lab maps in the past, you might have needed to upload a background image because the drawing tools were pretty rudimentary. But this 7.5 release has a major overhaul in the way that those tools work, and we will start there in the call today. And then after we demo the maps, we will look at some of the other new features in the 7.5 release. So here's a list of the new features. We're going to look first at the lab map upgrades. Other new features include URL tracking, hardware purchase records, font audits, and then one that's actually been available for the last couple of releases that we wanted to at least mention during the call today is the self-updating clients. All right, so let's jump in to the KeyServer here. So I've got Key Reporter up, and this is a slightly customized dashboard, just one where I've got the software availability widget added. This is what the default guest dashboard looks like with availability and the software availability. And the first thing I wanted to show you was the improvements to the software availability. You might have noticed previously that this wasn't extremely useful for end users because an end user would come in and type Photoshop, and the only product results that they were going to see down here are those that contain that set of characters. Photoshop, so Creative Cloud or Creative Suite products would not show up. You see that this is relatively limited in the results we get here, but if I click the More button, what we're going to see is another new feature in the way that this is presented. Previously, you would see a list of products here and only those that contain that string of characters that you had typed. Now these products are broken up by where their locations are. So I can see Adams Lab 1 has all of these different products in it that contain Photoshop as a program, including Creative Cloud, as well as Photoshop specific products. If we look at Adams Lab 2, same thing. So we're seeing a breakdown by location of where these products are installed. If I select a product, say Creative Cloud 2015, there's 10 copies in Adams Lab 2, it's going to go straight to highlighting the machines in that lab that have that product installed. And then just as previously, if we wanted to check other locations for that specific product, now if I come back to that software search, I'm only seeing those locations and then the counts that have that specific Adobe Creative Cloud product. So that's the software availability, both as this software search page and then as the software availability widget, which can be embedded next to your availability widget on any university web page or any other location that you'd like to have that. In addition to updates to the way the availability widget works, which I'll get into a little bit of detail on, you might also notice that now we have a tab for maps. This is new as well. Previously, the only way to access the maps was through this widget, but you no longer are required to go that route. You can just go straight to this Maps tab. What you're seeing here are examples of new ways of organizing your maps and your computers. In addition to divisions, which if I click here, this is what you would normally have seen in prior versions of Key Reporter, where you've just got a list of divisions that exist within your KeyServer or Key Configure, which is what we see here. So these are maps that are associated with divisions. What is new in this screen is that we can use division sets. So if I go into this is a division set that I can add to. And this would allow you, if you wanted to set up an availability widget which one of these, that rather than showing all of the maps campus-wide, you could create a set of divisions that is maybe at the building level or the campus or department level. So this is similar to what we were able to do previously with sections, where you could create an availability widget for each section, which is a group of divisions. And then this other set is for tagged computers. You can create a value tag for a set of computers that will allow you to create a lab map for that. And probably the prime example for this feature is if you wanted to do a large map that included the entire floor of a building. So let's say you have a tech center or a library that contains multiple smaller divisions, but you wanted a single map that displayed the entire floor. You could tag all the computers in those divisions with a new tag called library, and then create a single map for all the computers with that value tag. I will come in to divisions here for the rest of the demonstration, and we'll go ahead and go through the process of building a new map. Like I said previously, you would have been encouraged by the functionality to use a background image that you uploaded as the background for your lab. This one, however, was built entirely within KeyServer in probably a 10 or 15 minute period. We have the tools that allow you to draw walls, icons for doors and other objects, the accessibility or bathroom signs, the exit sign. These are all built-in icons, as well as the chairs and printer and scanner icons. So this map was put together very quickly in a number of minutes, and this is an example of something that we're going to walk through today. So now let's just step through the process of creating a new map. What you'll see is there's either this set of 3 icons or this plus icon. And anything that's got the set means that there's already a map that has been started. This icon means you want to create a new map. So we'll just start with this Adams Lab 4, and I'll click here. And the first thing you'll notice is that in addition to the division name here, we also have the ability to assign or define a custom name. There's a number of reasons you might want to do this. Probably the most common is if you're pulling your division names in from Active Directory and you've got a list of OUs separated by a period. That's not necessarily the way you want to display that to end users or students. So in that case, you could come in and just type in the actual lab name here. I won't make any changes, but you can type in and it will display at the top of the lab whatever you type here. Optional description. And then previously, once you began the process of creating a lab map, the fact that there was a map there at all is what would determine whether or not it was displayed or made visible to guest users that are not signed in. And now you have the ability to have that map started and even created and finalized and saved without necessarily publishing it and making that accessible to users. So if you wanted to create a lab map for staff computers or something that you never intended to make public, you could go ahead and do that and make that visible only to administrators with access. We're going to leave the options as they are currently and just click Save. And that brings up this map setup window where if you have one and you want to use it, you can still upload a background image. Otherwise, you can set the dimensions of the room. If you know them, if you want to be very precise with the dimensions, you can use those there. I'm going to just click Done because what we can see is this represents those default dimensions, but I can still click and drag and manually change the way this views, and we see the current dimensions off in the top right corner there. So you can be as precise as you want to be in terms of the dimensions of the room. The icons here, this is settings or properties of this map. And if we go in here, there are some additional settings I wanted to make sure everyone saw. This is where you can go in to change the name later on if you want. If there are computer name prefixes that you want to hide, you can, of course, change the icon size as well. This is again where you can upload the image and choose whether or not to scale it. And then the floor color here is just this light gray background. We can change that as well now. And then here's some other settings, making it visible to public viewers based on idle sessions. Another request we've had a number of times. Previously, the way the maps always worked and still work by default is that availability is based on whether or not someone is logged in. So a user sits down at the computer, they log in, and then the icon for that computer turns red on the map, indicating that that computer is in use. They log out and it turns a green, indicating that it's available. Well, in a lot of labs, you may have a generic user account that's signed in throughout the entire lab and never signed out of. And that was an issue in terms of determining whether a computer was available or not. In prior versions, it would always be shown as in use if it was signed in. So this feature says that based on idle time of that computer, we will say that it is available again. And that idle time is managed within Key Configure. Under Config, General Settings, there is this idle tab here, and user sessions are idle, and then you can determine how long you would like it to go. So if we wanted to say 10 minutes is too long, if a computer sits idle for 5 minutes, that's when I want my idle time to be based on. Select that, check this box, and then all these computers can be logged into, but if they've been sitting still for 5 minutes without use, then they will show a green icon here in the map. Show off-map computers allows you to toggle whether or not computers that have not been placed onto the floor of that lab will display. So this is useful if you have computers that are maybe in that room or assigned to that division but aren't accessible to users as lab computers, like help desk computers or something of that nature. It's also useful if you have computers that have been replaced and you don't want to remove them from that division. So you want to leave the old hardware in the division for reporting purposes. You can take them off the map, leave them in that division, and just not display the icons for those machines. Show path. This is up here where you see maps, divisions, and then the lab name. This is showing back on that prior screen we were at where you could choose divisions, tagged computers, or a division set. This shows you where in that structure the lab you're looking at is located. So if you don't want to display that full path, you can turn that off. And when we click OK, I think we've got to refresh the page. You see it just displays Adams Lab 4. And let's go back in. The show legend, this is when we're out of edit mode, there's the legend of what the different icon colors mean and what the different icons mean. You can turn that on or off. And then the forecast is the demand forecast I'll show you here. That's a feature from prior builds as well. So that's all the settings within the map. And this is a publish icon. So if you click here, that's when you save the work that you've done. And this is Revert. So if you've previously published and saved a map and you go in and start making changes and you want to clear the changes and go back to what was previously published, you click there. This is the wall drawing tool. And we'll just start this map, if it will. And these wall objects are lines that are being drawn. So they are things that can be modified and edited after the fact. So we'll say that's where a window is in this room and continue. We'll leave some room for a door here, escape that, and then fix this so that they align. So that's the door. Here's where a window is in this room, and that's how you use the wall tool. Pretty straightforward and simple. This is the object library. And if we go in here, we can see that this is where all the pre-installed icons and other desk objects are. So if we go ahead and add, I'm going to add a couple, just sort of scan through those so you can see what they are. But then I'm going to add a couple of desks that are down here at the bottom that have a few. All right, so what we're going to do is place this table, and then I'm going to Control or Command C to copy and paste again. And now one thing that's pretty cool is when I move this and place it, if I paste again, it will paste it with the same relationship between these two objects. So just by Command or Control V again, I can place another one in the same row. Now this is more computers than we have in this lab, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Bring this over, and then what these green icons are the snap points that I mentioned, and you can place these individually. So if you were to build a desk object, you could place this on that desk object, save it, and then add it to the object library. I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. But we'll go ahead and I'll show you how these snap points work. So if we select a computer, I can, at this point, figure out tab 2, I'm actually using arrow keys to find the location that this computer goes, and I just hit enter and it will place it and go to the next computer. So without dragging and dropping those maps at all, I have the ability now to just toggle through the possible locations and hit enter to place the machines. If I would prefer to drag and drop, I can grab my machine and it's just gonna select the closest snap point to where I'm at and then drop it there. So if these are where we had computers in this room and we wanted to create a custom or a user-built desk object for, say, the instructor's machine. Say we need a new one because their desk shape or size just isn't in this pre-built library. Very easy to do. We're going to start with an object from the object library and just drop a chair in place. And then we can open up the drawing tools here and select a table. Let's say this is just a very large table that goes here. Now, I can then go in and add my snap point to where that machine might be on this table. And if there were some other things that I also wanted to add, I can go ahead and add, let's say this is where we're going to have a printer over here. Now, I can group these together with, if I right click, this is the group objects selection here. These are others that you might recognize if you've ever used a product like Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, send to back. So a selected object can be brought to the front or the back, and other relationship based tools here that allow you to align different objects against one another. So that's what those are for. But I'm going to just group these together, and you see now they're all part of a single group that I can move together. And then I can, from this point, add this object to the object library. We'll just call this instructor. Desk, and we will create that. And now this is in the object library right here. I can then say, oh, he's facing the wrong direction, and turn this person around from there. And I've got my snap point here, place the computer in there. So very quick and straightforward and easy to do this. Other tools here, text, and then other drawing tools, arches, zigzags, and other shapes as well. And then here's your fill and outline colors. These are all of the options that are here. And then these are font and other text related options as well. So that's really all it takes. You know, we could go ahead and add that door icon here, add the exit sign, or any other objects that we might want to add to this lab. But that's a pretty straightforward, simple lab. So that was the process of building a map in the new drawing tools. If you've ever used the older tools from prior versions, you'll know this is much, much faster. What used to take maybe a few hours to get the different objects in place desks built and one by one, and to publish your map. This is much faster to get a usable map that actually looks like a good representation of these rooms. Also new within this window when you're logged in as an administrator is this ability to run reports right from the map or division. So we can run audit reports, whether it be product, program reports, or any other report accessible from this window right from the lab. This is a refresh button to show which computers are in use. It'll check again, and that by default you have to click the button to update it. If these are being displayed to students on a kiosk or something like that, you can hold shift and click this icon and you'll see it highlights in green, and that means that every 60 seconds it will automatically refresh. Other features that, if you haven't seen these maps previously, we've got the demand forecast. Currently it's not showing demand because I'm running a simulation that has not been running for a long time. So it just shows this yellow, which means light demand. But these are the different colors. This is based on historical usage data, and it will show you what the demand forecast for the next 24 hours and the next week looks like based on historical usage. And then closed is what you would see if we had open and closed hours set up for these maps. Those are managed with time sets. In Key Configure, there is a window called time sets. And within this window, if you have a time set, you can right click and select new time set and set up the hours. You name it after a lab. And then when you go to the map for that lab, which it looks like we have one in place, Adams Lab 2, it will show the hours for that lab. So this one is currently open, closes in 11 hours and 26 minutes. And then the closed times will be displayed with that gray bar. Just in case you have not seen these maps before, this is functionality that has been in prior versions. We select a computer, we can see what software is installed on that machine that has a product or a policy associated with it in Key Configure. New to this version is administrators that are logged in can also see the current user of that computer. And these are all scrambled names, but this is the current user of this machine, the operating system, the computer name, and then all of the installed software that has a policy associated with it. You can also select the magnifying glass to see the full list of software installed in this, and then of course select the title and it will show you the computers that have that software installed. And then as we demonstrated before, click here and it will show you other locations where that product is installed. That covers pretty much everything that I wanted to cover for these lab maps. The ability to embed these maps has not changed. So you have the ability to embed the map itself. We had a site that I saw that had previously built out a page for each of their labs on their website that just showed a list of the hardware and software installed in each room. It was just a static list of what was available in that lab for users, but they had built out the navigation for their maps already. So they were able to just embed the maps themselves right on the pages that already existed that were previously just static pages with information about that room, and they embedded the maps themselves. Also, you could embed the availability widget. Any of these pages that you see can be embedded, but you can embed the widget. You could embed the maps divisions page here, or you can embed each individual map into a page you may already have. I think that covers everything on the maps that we wanted to cover today. So we'll just minimize that. And we'll talk about URL tracking. Another feature that has been requested for a while and is now available within KeyServer. And the way that URL tracking works is the first step is to create a product based on a URL pattern. And the easiest way to do that is to come right into the products window and right click and select new product. Then we can select web-based. So this is a new product that is web-based, and I will do this for, let's say, Google. We're going to call this Google. If we wanted to track Google as a product and see how much users are using Google, just type the name here for your new product. If you have version publisher information, you can add it here. And this is where we would define the URL pattern. Don't worry about the ones that you see here that have the characters displayed. This is a test KeyServer. These are from testing and from a prior build. To add a new URL pattern, you just click the plus icon down here and type the domain. So we could do google.com, and it looks like that may already exist in one of these prior versions. But type the google.com here, and that's really all that you need to do. If there are other attributes of that URL pattern that are gonna sort of make sure or define it as the product that you want. So Office 365, it's probably not just office365.com. You can sort of define exactly what that looks like here and click next. If there is a previous product, earlier version with a different URL or something, you can add that here, but we'll go ahead and click next and finish this. And that has brought up this product details. And you'll see we've got in our applications pane, or programs pane, we have this new application, which is this Google URL. And I'll go ahead and save that. I'm not going to create a policy to track this. I did one yesterday that I can show you very quickly. It was a WikiHow. So I created this product yesterday. You can see the icon has changed as a cloud icon instead of the Windows or Mac. So that indicates that this is a web-based product. And then I also created, from here, you can right-click and create a new policy. And I've already got a policy in place, but this is just like creating any other policy. A couple things to note: it won't stop you from creating a deny policy, but the software does not currently actually block usage of a website. So you could create a deny policy. If a user goes to that website, Key Access will give them a pop-up that says they're not allowed to use this product, but it's actually not going to block the website. They click through and they continue. So just be aware that deny is not functional for web-based products at this time. But I will close out of this and find the policy I created yesterday, and we'll just have a quick look at it. This is the policy that I created yesterday for this product. It contains my WikiHow product, just like the Google one we just created. We just dragged that in. I set it up as a site metric because really this is just about tracking usage. So create it as a site. You could set it as relaxed or none. That's all there is to creating a policy behind a web-based product. And then it works just like any other policy. We've got no limit. If we bring up a browser and I go to wikihow.com, I can come to this website, and then within a few seconds we should see that we have one in use. So we are tracking and logging usage by computer and user for this website now. And so that's URL tracking. If you have any questions or anything comes up, please let me know. The next new feature I could show you is the hardware purchase records. So if we go to open up any of these computers, the new feature here is this new purchase pane. So open that up, and we've got fields that are associated with purchase records, and then the individual fields for those: the purchase date, warranty date, lease end date, and salvage value are new fields. Font audits, I mentioned that. I'm not going to go through how to set that up because there is a hidden window that you have to unhide first, and it will actually allow you to see packages and other things other than fonts. But once you turn that packages window on, it shows up here, and within this, you see any add remove entries, lots of installers and other items here. And something that is newly added to this window is fonts. And at that point, you can make a product out of your font and then create a policy, if you would like, that would allow you to audit not usage, but installations of that font. And this was requested by a user who had a specific font that the university had purchased. They had purchased a limited number of installations of that, and they wanted to make sure they didn't go over how many installations they were supposed to use. And then the last one is self-updating clients. I'll show you very quickly where you go for that. It is this key access version control under the config menu. This is what you had previously seen, is just where it says old versions. These 3 tabs are all new, and they allow you for 64-bit or 32-bit Windows, and then for Mac OS X to enable individually your auto updates by operating system, set what percent. If you want to say do 5 or 10% of your computers at first to do some testing, you can set that percentage. And then when it gets to that 5% have installed it, it won't allow any others until you make a change there. And then you tell it where to go to grab that file. And the client, when it logs in, will get this information and know where to go to access that file and automatically run the update to the client. Again, that one's been around for a couple of versions there, so you may already have that without installing 7.5. But once you get there and you get your clients updated to a version that supports that, you will have automatic updates from that point forward. So that covered all of the items in our outline for today. Yeah, thanks again for joining.